I'm going to show you guys how to do a multi-step problem. I'm going to show you two ways. So I'm going to show you the first way, just basically using cubes and keywords. Then I'm going to show you the same problem using part, whole. Some of the students like part, whole, some of them don't, some of them just like using keywords. So they can use whatever makes them more comfortable and whichever one they understand the best. I just want to show you both ways so that you guys understand how to do it and how to help them, because this word problem unit is hard for us. And they can always go on to IXL and I will post them on Dojo so you guys know which ones will help them. So we're going to go ahead and solve this problem. Excuse me. An ocean has 7,225 sea creatures. 4,205 of the sea creatures are fish and 1,008 of the sea creatures are whales. If the rest of the sea creatures are sharks, how many sharks live in the ocean? So we always know that our first step with the word problem is to write cubes, whether you're doing it with keywords or part, whole. We always need to do cubes so that we know that we're doing each step. So the students know that the C in cube means circle your numbers. So if you can't circle them, you can write the numbers down next to it. But on Kami, on your assignments, on Canvas, and on here, we can circle. So I'm just going to circle them, and then I'm going to check off that I did that step in the problem. The next step is U for underline the keywords. Or underline the question, I'm sorry. So we're going to underline the question. A question always ends in a question mark. So we're going to be looking for the question mark and then underline that question. So here's the question mark. So it says, how many sharks live in the ocean? That's going to be our question. Now I can check that off. Now we're going to look for keywords. Since there are 3 numbers, that means it's going to be a multi-step problem. There's going to be 2 steps in our problem, so we should be able to box 2 keywords. So the students know that one keyword could be and, because and means to plus. So there are fish and whales. So we're going to add these 2 numbers together. If the rest, we talked about the word rest today, could mean subtract. So we want to see, after we add these 2 together, how many of the rest of the sea creatures are going to be sharks. So now that we did that, we can check it off. And E means to estimate or eliminate extra numbers. We don't have to estimate or eliminate anything in this problem. S means simply to solve. So I'm going to go ahead and start solving. The first thing I'm going to do is add my 2 numbers together. So I'm going to add the number of fish and the number of whales. So my first step is to add. So I'm going to add 4,205 plus 1,008. So we're going to add these 2 numbers together. The students are getting really good with adding, with regrouping, and subtracting. So just keep practicing at home. 5 plus 8 is 13. So put the 3. Carry the 1 next door. I like to put plus 1 so I remember to add it, because 0 plus 0 is 0. And sometimes they write 0 and they forget to do that plus 1. So we have to make sure that we remember to include this plus 1. So 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 0 is 2. 4 plus 1 is 5. So we know altogether between the fish and the whales that there's 5,213. Now I want to know what the rest of the sharks would be. So I'm going to subtract, but I'm going to put, we use this number and we use this number. So we have 7,225 and 5,213. But I'm going to use the biggest number on top, because when we subtract, the biggest number has to be on top. So I'm going to write 7,225. That's the total number of sea creatures. So I need to subtract the amount of whales and fish to see the rest of the animals. The rest of the animals are going to be sharks. So now I'm going to subtract the fish and the whale total. So 5,213. Now we can go ahead and subtract. So 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 minus 2 is 0. 7 minus 5 is 2. So our answer would be 2012. So that's how many sharks are in the ocean. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you the same exact problem, but I'm going to do it with part whole. Some of the students really like part whole, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to solve it with part whole. Alright, so we have the same exact problem. An ocean has 7,225 sea creatures, 4,205 of the sea creatures are fish, 1,008 of the sea creatures are whales. If the rest of the sea creatures are sharks, how many sharks live in the ocean? So like I said, our first step with the word problem is always to write cubes because we want to make sure that we can solve the problem correctly. If we don't know where the numbers are or what the question is, we cannot solve it. So the first step is to circle our numbers. So like I said, on here we can circle them, so I'm just going to circle them, but if you cannot circle them, you can go ahead and write them next to the sea. Our question is the same, how many sharks live in the ocean? But instead of boxing our keywords this time, sometimes the kids have a hard time. They're going to do part whole. So I'm just going to write a P next to it so I know that I'm doing part whole. So part whole is when we have this box. It's kind of like having a whole candy bar. So the total amount of the candy bars at the top, and if we divide it into parts. So since there's multi-step, there's 3 numbers, it's going to be divided into 3 parts. If it's single step, it's going to be divided into 2 parts. So the top number is always going to be the total number of whatever we're talking about. In this case, we're talking about sea creatures. And it tells us the total number of sea creatures in the ocean. So it says in the ocean there are 7,225 sea creatures. That's the total amount of sea creatures in the ocean. Then that means there's 3 parts we're looking for. If we look at the problem, we see that there are fish. So we have a fish part. We have a whales part. And we're trying to find the sharks part. So the number of fish, we're going to write inside the fish box 4,205. The number of whales, 1,008. And we're missing the sharks. So that's the one we're trying to find. When we're missing a part, that means we're going to have to subtract at some point. So the first step we're going to do is add our whales and our fish together because we want to know how many there are together. So the first step we're going to do is add those together. So 4,205 plus 1,008. So we're going to add those together. 5 plus 3 is 13, or 5 plus 8 is 13, plus 1, so 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 0 is 2. 1 plus 4 is 5. So 5,013, or 5,213 will be how many fish and whales we have together. I'm going to go ahead and erase this so I have some more space for my work. Now, since I'm missing a part, I have to subtract. So I have part of the wholes, but I'm still missing one part. I don't know how many sharks we have. So if I don't know how many sharks we have, I need to subtract the total from the amount that we have so far. So I know that we have, between the fish and the whales, we have 5,213. To figure out this part, I need to subtract that from the whole. So I'm going to subtract now. So I'm going to do 7,225 minus 5,012, or 5,213. When you have a part missing, you're always going to have to subtract somewhere in the problem. So now I can set up my problem. The biggest number always goes on top. 7,225 minus my amount of fish and whales together, which is 5,213. And now I can go ahead and subtract. So 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 minus 2 is 0. And 7 minus 5 is 2. So I got the same answer both ways. It just shows that I am missing 2012 sharks. A good way to check your answer is if I were to put this right here. If the students add the number of fish, whales, and sharks, they should get the top number. So if I add those together, we should get the top number. So we already have the number of whales and fish. So I'm just going to add the number of sharks to that 5,213. That's a good way to be able to check your answer because all these parts added together should equal the whole at the top. So if I add 5,213 and I add my number of sharks, which we know is 2012 now, 2012, I should get 7,225. So 3 plus 2 is 5, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 0 is 2, 5 plus 2 is 7. So I got the correct answer because all my parts added together equals my total at the top. So the number of fish plus whales plus sharks equal the total number of sea creatures. All right, hopefully that helps you guys make sense. Those are two different ways you can solve a word problem. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you need me to explain some more.